I'm going to be the first person to tell you that there are much easier ways to make hard lemonade than what I'm going to show you in today's video. I mean, all you need is a jug of lemonade, add as much vodka as you feel like you can handle, and if you want it fizzy, finish it off with a little Sprite or ginger ale. But what's the fun in that? In today's episode, I'm going to share with you how I like to make Eric's extra hard lemonade. And let me just tell you, the end result is going to have a flavor that is far superior to anything you can get your hands on. It's going to be carbonated just like a soda, and it's going to be a bit extra punchy with an ABV of roughly 14.25%. Let me show you how to make it. We're going to start off with 20 lemons. Earlier today, I removed all the zest, all the rind, and we took that and turned it into limoncello. If you want to see a video outlining the entire process of how to make limoncello, I'll put a video suggestion in the top right-hand corner. But that limoncello is going to play a very crucial role in today's hard lemonade recipe. We're going to take the juice from about 20 lemons, basically 2 cups of lemon juice. And if you check the description box below, I'll be sure to put a detailed recipe outlining all the ingredients and all of the steps. Now that we have our juice, we need to take a look at our equipment. And what I have here is about a gallon of sanitizing solution and all the equipment that we're going to be using that's going to come into contact with our lemonade. We want to make sure that everything is sanitized. Otherwise, we could be introducing some sort of contamination, and we certainly don't want that. The sanitizer I'm using is called Star San. And for 1 gallon, you really only need about 6 ml. So that's what we did. We just mixed up a gallon, and now we are good to go. We are going to be using the iGulu homebrewing device to make our hard lemonade, and I want to make sure that I sanitize the inside of that keg. If you do use Star San as a sanitizer, you'll notice that it does foam up quite a bit. Do not worry about it. It is totally okay. Matter of fact, we're going to proceed with the recipe right now by adding our sugar. Now, this is 1 kilo of white sugar that's been inverted. Let's take a pause. If you're not familiar with invert sugar, it's basically sugar that's been cooked to above 236 degrees Fahrenheit or 114 degrees Celsius, and an acid is added. In this case, we added cream of tartar, but citric acid works, or ascorbic acid. Anyway, inverting sugar makes the sugar source easier to ferment for the yeast, and you get a higher rate of attenuation. Okay, now that the sugar is in, we're going to add our 2 cups of lemon juice. And the reason we're only adding 2 cups of lemon juice on the front end is because I didn't want to create a solution that was too acidic for the yeast. Once you add your lemon juice, go ahead and fill your keg to the max line with non-chlorinated water. And we're going to close that down and just give it a shake. We're just trying to incorporate a little oxygen into that liquid. The yeast need a little oxygen, not a lot, so that they can grow and build a nice hardy cell membrane before they actually begin the process of fermentation. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to take the original gravity of our solution. So basically, we just want to find out the level of fermentable sugars inside of our lemonade right now. Now, I already know that if you add a kilo of sugar to about a gallon of water, you're going to end up with an original gravity of something close to 1.1. We'll see what ours looks like here. Now, there is a small little layer of foam. We got to get that out of the way. Okay. So if I had to give this a little measure, I don't think we're quite at 1.1. I think we're really more at like 1.096. I think that's what I'm going to jot down. And 1.096, if we, have a decent attenuation, that's going to give us a lemonade of something to the tune of about 12.6%. Not too bad. So what I'm going to do is write down the original gravity at 1.096. Now remember, everything that I'm touching is sanitized. If this equipment wouldn't be sanitized, then what I'm about to show you, you definitely don't want to do because you would be introducing contamination. But everything that I'm touching, that the liquid is touching, is sanitized. And now we need to get our yeast ready, so we're going to do that by rehydrating it. Inside of our lemonade solution, I want that yeast to acclimate to this liquid, and we're going to let it hang out there for about 30 minutes. The yeast that I'm using is EC 1118. Notice I've got a pretty large pack, but you can get this in single packs. And I think we probably use something like 2.5 grams for this recipe. But remember, the recipe link will be in the description box below. I'm going to give that a stir just to make sure everything is mixed up nicely and set that to the side. We're going to let that hang out for about 30 minutes. Inside of our jug, we want to give the yeast a little food. So I'm going to be adding 6 grams of yeast nutrient. This is what my little container looks like. Came in a bag and the bag busted, so I just put it in that jug. We're going to give it a whisk to combine. It's also going to help introduce a little more oxygen. And then close it up. Guess what? Another shake. We're only going to shake it for a minute or two right here. Nothing too outrageous. 30 minutes have passed. Our yeast looks beautiful. It's nice and active, and it's now time to pitch. Right now, the temperature of our lemonade is about 70, 75 degrees. Right here, I added a floating dip tube to the igulu keg, and that's going to help us out when we go to rack so we don't pull any sediment from the bottom. And there we go. That's just going to float right on top, and it's just only going to pull from the top, and then by the time it's all done, it's going to be beautiful. Let's lock it down. And the first step of making this hard lemonade is just about finished. We're going to put this into our igulu home brewing device and sanitize the top one last time. And the igulu comes with a hose that's a dispensing hose that's I found to be pretty short. It also causes quite a bit of foaming when you dispense beer. So in this particular case, we're going to be doing a carbonated version of lemonade, so I didn't want a bunch of foam to come out. So what I did was I extended the hose, and I believe that that's going to help out quite a bit. Now we're going to go ahead and just lock everything down, connect the machine. And I don't think I demonstrated, but to connect the dispensing line, you pull the tap forward, and then you just push that into the appropriate slot. It'll slide right on in, and you are good. So let's close it down, and we now need to activate something called Master Mode. This mode opens up the igulu and gives you full access to all of its features and functions. In essence, it allows you to create custom recipes. Now, there is a cost associated with Master Mode, and the igulu by itself will do a ton of stuff, but having Master Mode allows you to go in unrestricted and create customized recipes, which we're going to be doing specifically for this. So we're just going to put that up against the machine, and the brewing device should pick it up pretty quick. There we go. Okay, so once you have that, you'll notice a little diamond right there at the very top. That means Master Mode has been initiated, and it's there forever. We are going to go into our app, and from the app, these are the preset recipes, and none of those preset recipes really worked for what we were trying to do. So we're going to create a recipe for Eric's Extra Hard Lemonade. We're going to give it a title right quick. We need to select our model, which is the S1. And step one for this recipe, we're going to start it pretty high. I want the yeast to be very active before we drop the temperature. And with this yeast, you could do it no problem. So 1 day at 82.4 degrees with a max PSI of 16. The next, let's call it, 16 days. We're going to drop the temperature to 64.4 degrees, and we're going to also keep the max PSI at 16. Stage 3, the final stage, we're going to cold crash our lemonade. So we're going to do that for 3 days and bring the temperature of our lemonade down to 37.4 with a max PSI of 4. And there we go. That's going to be our recipe. It's a total of 20 days from start to finish. We're going to save it and begin the brewing process. So once you brew it, you do have to confirm. And once you do that, the igulu will begin the process. Notice that we are at 84 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have 20 days remaining. The PSI is currently 3.5. So we're now going to wait. And a total of 15 days have now passed. And this is what our screen looks like. So notice we have 5 days remaining. We're at that second stage, lower temperature, and our PSI is 15.9. So remember, our ceiling was 16. We need to get a final gravity reading. And 15 days of fermenting, I think, is long enough for the EC1118 to have done its job. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to release the pressure in the keg and just going to lift that up and bring it all the way down to 0. And I want to see how long it takes to recover. If it recovers pretty quick, that means it's still fermenting, it's still producing a lot of carbon dioxide. But if within an hour it doesn't get above, let's say, 4 psi, then I know we're done. And as you can see right here, 1 hour later, we're at 1.8 psi, which is more than likely from the residual carbon dioxide that is dissolved inside the liquid from fermentation. So the fermentation process is complete. We're going to open up the clamp and see what our final gravity reading is. Now remember, everything has been sanitized. No worries. We're going to give that hydrometer a little spin and to see where it ends up. Okay, it looks like we're at 1.0. Absolutely perfect. Now, we have fermented all of the sugar from this lemonade, so our product right now, if you were to taste it, would be pretty dry. We're going to sweeten it on the back end here in a minute, but before we do that, we want to stabilize it. I don't want any of the sugars to continue fermenting what we add here in just a little while. So the first thing that we're going to add is a Camden tablet. This is basically a sanitizer for our lemonade. It's something called potassium metabisulfite, and we need to crush it up. So I'm just going to stick it between these two little cups and give it a smash. There we go. No big deal. Maybe give it a turn, right? Just grind it out. There it is. Okay. And now we have our Camden tablet ready to go in the powder form, easy to dissolve. You could also use some spoons, right? That's super easy as well. Just grab a couple spoons and put the Camden tablet right between the spoons and give them a crush. Either way, you want it in the powder form so it can dissolve very easily. And what I'm going to do here is just put the little bit of Camden powder that we made into a little bit of lemonade. That way we can dissolve it very easily and then just add it to our keg. If you want, you can add the powder directly to your keg, give it a mix. I'm sure that'll be totally fine as well. But this is how we chose to do it. So into the keg it goes. All right. It's mostly dissolved already. All we're going to do here is just give it a little shake. Nothing too aggressive. Just move it around a little bit. And now we're done. All right, so we've added our Camden tablet, and we need to give this tablet time to work, and I'm going to give it roughly about 24 hours. So back into the iGulu it goes. And what I'm about to do is very optional. We did introduce oxygen to the keg, and so what I want to do is try to remove as much of that oxygen as possible. So I'm going to turn on the CO2 adapter, and we're only doing this to get rid of the oxygen. We're going to give the machine a flush, so we're going to release the pressure valve a few times. Remember that CO2 is heavier than oxygen, so what's coming out is oxygen. Once I'm done, I'm going to turn off the CO2 and unplug it from the machine because I'm not trying to carbonate our lemonade at this point. We're going to wait 24 hours and we're going to finish stabilizing our lemonade. And we're going to do that by adding something called potassium sorbate. When you do a two-step stabilization, so step 1 is the Camden tablet, step 2 is the potassium sorbate, and this is just going to ensure proper stabilization. It's going to prevent oxidation. It's going to keep the cells from, multiplying and re-fermenting any sugars that you add. It's going to give you a longer shelf life on your product. Potassium sorbate does dissolve incredibly fast, so I don't need to do anything special with that. I'm just going to put it right there on the top and just give it a little bit of a shake, just like that. Okay. Back into the machine it goes, and it's going to finish its cycle. I do want to remove the oxygen once again from the keg, so we're going to turn on the CO2 and flush out the keg a couple times. Once we're done, we're going to turn off the CO2 and then let it finish. This final step, cold crashing, this is going to help clarify our lemonade, and now we're done. Now, the iGulu automatically goes into refrigeration mode once the cycle is complete, and I want you to take a look at the lemonade now. You can see that you have the leaves on the bottom. Nice, clear, beautiful lemonade. And that's why we have that dip tube in there so that when we go to rack our lemonade, we're not pulling any of those dead yeast, cells into our final product. Okay, so I just pulled that out to show you the deal. I'm going to now carbonate it because we need a little bit of pressure to remove the liquid from that keg. And I'm just going to put this into a clean, sanitized container, open up the clamp, and pour out my lemonade. So this is, in essence, a racking step. We're just pulling all of the lemonade out and leaving the dead yeast behind, the lees, any sediment that could have accumulated during the brewing process. And look at that, just absolutely perfect. None of that sediment was pulled into the bin with the lemonade. Loving the little float tube, absolutely brilliant. One last little peek before we discard. You could drink that if you want. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. But we don't want that in our lemonade. We're going to toss it, and then we're going to give this keg a sanitize, because we are going to fill it back up here in just a second. All right, we need to put the final touches on our lemonade. And let me just say before we get into all this, what we're about to do is a personal preference situation. So you want to make sure that you taste your lemonade at each stage. However you choose to sweeten it, however you choose to fortify it, completely up to you. I'm going to give it a taste. And yeah, of course, look, it's 12.6%, very strong, super dry. And if you like that, you can keep it just like that, not a problem. But I want to make it a little bit sweeter, and I want to make it a little bit stronger. So what we're going to do here is we're going to fortify this with the limoncello that we made earlier. This limoncello right here is roughly about a 20% ABV. And remember, limoncello is already sweetened, so that may give us the sweetness that we're looking for inside of our lemonade. We'll have to taste it and see. I'm going to add the entire quart of limoncello to this 1 gallon of lemonade. And to that, we're going to also be adding 2 cups of fresh lemon juice. I wanted to increase the lemon flavor as well as the rind flavor, so that limoncello is going to bring its own complexity. The lemon obviously is just going to make it more like a lemonade. And we're now going to give it a taste and just make whatever adjustments you feel are necessary. For me, this is perfect. I don't feel like we need to add any more sugar. The lemon flavor is absolutely beautiful. You're getting it on both ends, the rind and the juice. But if you want to increase the sweetness, add a little simple syrup, or if you want to add more lemon juice, you could certainly do that. And I would start with very small increments, maybe a 1/4 cup or a 1/2 cup, until you get to where you like the flavor. Now, our lemonade needs to be carbonated. So we're going to be finishing this process back in the igloo. Now, you don't have to do this. You can refrigerate this and have an uncarbonated, super hard lemonade, but I want mine to be fizzy, so carbonation it is. Notice that I filled the keg way past the max line. I did that without concern because we're not fermenting anything. It's not going to rise. We shouldn't have a problem. All we're doing here is carbonating it. So I did fill it almost to the very top. I am going to put all of our hoses and clamps ready to go just to make it a little bit easier when I put it back in the machine. And we are done. Right here, we're going to connect the dispensing hose by pulling the tap forward, sliding the dispensing hose into the little hole till it doesn't go anymore, and giving it a close. Of course, we do want to connect our CO2, turn it on, and begin the process of carbonating. Now, when it comes to forced carbonating, everybody's got their own method. I like to start high to get it going pretty quick, and then dropping it down later. One thing I do want to do is release the pressure of the keg to get rid of any oxygen that's in there currently. And once we do that, we're just going to close it down and let it carbonate. And this also is a personal preference. What I like to do is start at 25 psi for 4 days, and then reduce the psi to serving pressure. So in my case, it's going to be closer to 11.5 psi at serving pressure, and let it hang there for another 3 days. So that's where we're at now. My psi is set to about 11.5, and we're going to let it hang there until we're ready to serve, or in our case, we're ready to bottle. Now, for me, a total of 7 days of forced carbonation have passed. If you want it more carbonated, you can let it sit longer. You can go higher. You know, it's really 100% up to you. And, you know, if you've never done it before, it may be a trial and error, but this is a good start. For this lemonade, 11.5, 12 psi is perfect. But like I said, if you want it ultra fizzy, you can come in a little bit stronger or, you know, a little bit lower. Personal preference. Right now, we're just filling up our sanitized bottles. So that's one out of the way. These are flip-top bottles we got on Amazon. Nice seal as well. Never had a problem with them leaking. Now, I'm fast-forwarding the process. This doesn't happen this quick. But once I'm done, I'll pull the bottle to where the tube is just barely sticking into the bottle, and I'll give it a little tug. There we go, just to get it right to the top. Perfect. Once we're done, give it a close, and pop it in the refrigerator. After it was all said and done, we were able to get 4 complete quarts, or 1 gallon, and a little more than 3/4 of a quart from a 5th bottle. Not too shabby. The ABV of this lemonade is coming in at 14.25%. And you know what? I think the only thing left to do is to give it a taste. Let's go with this one. Pour ourselves a glass. Eric's Extra Hard Lemonade, ABV of 14.25. Certainly packs a punch. How is it on flavor? Let's find out. Oh, wow. That's delicious. Right off the bat, I got to mention the carbonation because that's a very tricky element to get right. You can very easily overcarbonate something, and if you do, it becomes very distracting. A few years ago, I became addicted to carbonated water. And we would carbonate it so much so that it had this sharpness to it. It's unbelievable. I didn't want that for this. And I think finishing it off at that 11.5 serving pressure, absolutely perfect. It's carbonated just enough to give you that bubbly, fizzy sensation, but not so much where it's, you know, taking away from the drink. The lemon flavor is amazing. I mean, not only am I getting all of that lemonade, but I'm getting the complexity of the fermented lemons from stage 1. The limoncello, so that very citrus rind, that lemon rind forward vodka fortification is just coming through beautifully. And the sweetness is perfect. I wouldn't change a single thing about this. But like I said, it's about personal preference. You might like it a little sweeter. You might like it a little drier, maybe more carbonation. You know, experiment with it. Have fun. Wow, that's good. Seriously, that is seriously good. You're going to find a recipe link in the description box below that just outlines the entire process. And I get it. Seems intense. It's actually not as intense as it seemed on video because the process took 20 days. And, you know, each one of the steps happened when they happen. And when you get the hang of doing things in the igloo or brewing at home, it becomes second nature. The end result, though, I got to admit, totally worth it. Absolutely delicious. I guess my only problem is I wish I could brew bigger batches. You know, we're limited to, you know, in this one we did about 1 gallon and a quart, not just a little under a quart. And, you know, they're in the refrigerator. This is a nice, refreshing, hard lemonade. Hot, sunny day, a little bit of this. Honestly, ooh. Wow, that's just delicious. Yes, I'm gonna put that down for right now. Notice where it's at, okay? A lot of different ways you could take this recipe. We added limoncello. You don't have to do that. You could stop after fermentation and just add simple syrup and more lemon juice, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to not ferment out all the sugars. Leave a little sugar behind. That way you have a ready-to-go lemonade by the time you're finished. You know, maybe if you start off like I did, add 1 kilo of sugar and you start off at 1.096, make your final gravity 1.05, for instance. You'll end up with an ABV of somewhere around 6%. Absolutely beautiful, and it'll be incredibly delicious. Maybe add a little lemon juice if you want, or just leave it as is, carbonate it in the igulu, and you're good to go. And so you have a lot of different options. It really just depends on what you are into. When we first featured the igulu, we made a kit. First time making beer. And it came out very good. It was a very easy kit to follow. The igulu took most of the work. And one of the concerns that we got in the comment section was that this particular device is limited to its kits, which I would find problematic, honestly. But as you saw in today's video, it's actually limited to your imagination. You could literally do anything you want, especially when you activate master mode like we did for this video, because now you can create your own recipe. Ciders, kombuchas, you know, you can make them hard, you can make them regular, it doesn't really matter. All this unit does is control the temperature and the pressure. And so whatever you put in that little jug, as long as you want to control the temperature and the pressure, you can kind of make whatever you want, which I find incredibly exciting. If you want any information on the igulu S1 home brewing device, the one we used in today's video, I'll put a link in the description box below, and I'll be sure to add a discount code for those of you looking to save a couple bucks off your purchase. This is our second project. Now, granted, this one was a little more intense than our first project, but I did want to demonstrate some of the different capabilities of the igulu. I've got to be completely honest, I'm having a blast with this unit. And over here, I'm trying to think about what I want to make next. Maybe a hard kombucha, or maybe just like a, not quite hard, but maybe like a kombucha beer or a kombucha wine, something with a little more punch. Maybe even throw some exotic fruit in there, like dragon fruit. You know, I love my dragon fruit. Ooh, a dragon fruit kombucha beer. Interesting. Let me know what you think about it in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you like to see me make in the igulu? I mean, honestly, like I said, you're limited by your imagination. Technically speaking, I mean, you could make sauerkraut in there if you wanted to, because you're controlling the pressure and you're controlling the temperature. It's not really designed for that, but you can certainly do it. Anyway, I hope you had as much fun watching this video as I did making it. And if you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you're new to this channel, and this is the first video that you've seen from us, we try to do a little bit of everything on this channel. I do like brewing my own things, making my own things. And I gotta admit, really enjoying this EH lemonade. I can't wait to share it with other people. So if you like this type of content, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And look, I realize the process can seem relatively intense. So if you have a question about any of the things that I did for today's video, leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer all questions. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Who's ready for Celebrate Sausage? We've got 7 weeks before October the 1st. If you don't know what I'm talking about, October we do a series called Celebrate Sausage. We're on season 6, and we're uploading a brand new sausage making tutorial recipe every single day through the entire month. That's 31 recipe uploads, almost an entire year's worth of uploads in just 1 month. I gotta tell you, I am very thrilled about this year's show. A lot of great recipes, a lot of fun sausages. Some, you know what I'm saying? But we cover them. You know, we bring you the good, bad, the ugly. And I can't wait to share those sausage recipes with you. So looking forward to that. Until then, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers. See, still the same level. Wow. That's good.